First and foremost, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for joining me here today for our monthly Accelerate series webinar. This is a webinar that we host once a month. Typically, it's held every third Thursday at 3. Obviously, with the exception of some Thursdays, if we have like a holiday or something, we'll usually push it to the week before or the week after. But no matter what, you can expect to join us here for a monthly Accelerate series webinar. This month's topic is going to be all about mastering Asset Map's fact-finding process. And the goal of what I'm hoping that you all walk away with today is just efficiencies. So what are some key ways to get household data in? How do we fill in some of those gaps? What routes and methods might we use for a brand new prospect versus a client that perhaps we've been working with for a while? Some of it may be a little bit review for those of you that have been with us for a while, but I am going to be peppering in some new hidden gems, some feature enhancements that we've recently released that you may or may not even be aware of. So I'm going to make sure to point them out here for you today. Now, if you have questions, the best place to submit them is right there in the chat feature in Zoom. I will make sure that your question gets answered. Now, if it's off topic or not applicable to what we're talking about, or perhaps very user or case specific, then we can always talk about that offline. And of course, I'll always go over those support and resources. So everybody hop into the chat right now. Let me know, yes, if you're ready to get this party started. And if so, then we will go ahead and begin. All right, lots of yeses coming in. Perfect. Thanks, everyone. So let's talk first about who am I? So for those of you that I have not had the pleasure of working with yet, my name is LiaJean McHenry. I am our senior training manager over here at Asset Map. And I do a lot of our large scale training, a lot of our learning and development. So it's likely if you've been with us for a while, you've attended some of my trainings in the past. Really excited. If this is your first time, I hope that you'll tune in on our monthly webinars moving forward. And if you like what you saw today, just know that you can find all the past recordings I've done as well, because I want those there as a resource for you. So even if you just signed up with Asset Map yesterday, I promise you, and I think many of you that are on today's call who I know have been with us for years, I think all of us can attest that we really are here to support you, and our support team is phenomenal. So whether that's you looking back at past recordings of trainings, or live chatting our team, or calling us via our phone support line, or emailing us, I promise we're going to be here to help you. And I just have to say, I think that the people that reach out the most tend to be the most successful. And the reason for that is just if you have questions, you should get them answered. Okay, point blank. So if you have questions today, feel free to add them in the chat. Is this session being recorded? Yes, it is. When can you expect to have it? Most of you will get this recording probably within an hour or so after today's session concludes. I will add the disclaimer though, for some of you though that are a part of our enterprise clients. For some of you, I will have to submit the recording to compliance and get that approved. So as soon as I get that, I'll make sure to get that sent over to you. Okay. So many of you will likely get it an hour or so after. The other chunk will probably get it in by the end of the week, or hopefully early next week or something like that. But know that it's being recorded and you will get access. Okay. Now, this is going to be our agenda. So again, the purpose of today's training is talking about mastering Asset Map's fact-finding process. Well, lucky for you, there's a numerous number of ways to get household data into the application. Where we're going to start today is the Discovery Fact Finder. Why? Because I believe that this is one of the easiest ways to start getting data into Asset Map. And this is where we start our fact-finding journey, especially with new clients, leads, prospects. It also takes a lot of the workload off of yourself. Then we're going to move into speed with Stencils. I'm going to show you how even once we get a map created, even if it looks relatively incomplete, the next step will be to fill in those gaps utilizing Stencils. But Stencils are not only used to help us fact find and fill in gaps, they can also be used very strategically to help us put intentional placeholders on a household's map to drive conversation towards specific products and get to know our clients a little bit better. So I'm going to show you all the different ways to use them today. I am going to show you the benefits of manually entering households. And even though some of you, have likely all of you I would think, or at least many of you, I should say, have probably already manually entered a household before, I'm going to show you a little trick that I've seen some folks start to leverage as of late to kind of streamline getting manual entry made even easier into the application. We will touch on integrations at the highest level. However, we won't talk about them super in depth, and here's why. I had almost, I think, 200 plus people register for this webinar. And on this webinar right now, every single one of you are likely using different technologies that are out there. So, there might be a particular integration that one person would prefer I cover over another. And unfortunately, I just am not going to be able to cover all the integrations we have. So if you would like to learn more about integrations, I will point you to resources. And of course, we'll talk about them at a high level today. And then I'm going to go over some hidden gems, some things that you really need to make sure that you've got set up appropriately, some things that you may or may not be aware of. And I'm also going to showcase to you all a new feature enhancement that we just released last week. Okay. And many of you probably are not even aware that it's there. So I'm going to show you what that is later today. And then, of course, we'll go over support and resources. And if you've got questions, just add them into the chat and I'll get them answered for you. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the application. That's always where we're going to spend the majority of these trainings is in app, because I believe that this is really where we learn so that you can see it. Therefore, write down those notes, take in that information in your mind, and then go do it yourselves later today. Now, where I'd like to start is the Discovery Fact Finder. So when it comes to adding household, you'll click Add Household here. Okay. And then you'll also be able to see the options here. So you're going to have 3 different options for adding households: manual entry, Discovery Fact Finder, and or integrations. Now let's pause for a moment. We're going to start with Discovery today, but before we even do that, let me share some best practices. While we have 3 avenues that you can go down in terms of getting a household added into Asset Map, here's what I'm going to recommend. For your current clients, people that you have a lot of their information already, I'm going to recommend you go the manual entry route and or you go through integrations, okay? Depending on your tech stack. Meaning if you already have a relationship, you already have all the assets and things, let's say you're using LiaJean, for example, which is one of the integrations we have. If you already have the relationship group built in LiaJean with all their information, why not just import that household from LiaJean into Asset Map for then you to then work off of in Asset Map moving forward? Okay. Or if this is your family member or you're going to build a map for yourself to start, just go the manual entry route, go through the series of, go through adding all the details that you know about it, just so that you get familiar. And here's why. For your current clients in your current book of business, I believe that you should always take the liberty of building their map for them. Okay. And you can use that language. You can say, I took the liberty of building this map for you. Please take a look at it. If anything needs to be fixed, filled, and or updated or added, we can do that for you ASAP. Okay. Why? Why am I going to suggest that you not send a current client through Discovery? Well, here's why. For example, I have a financial advisor. I think he's great, right? I pay him money to manage my assets, etc. Here's the thing. If my financial advisor called me today and told me that he wanted to send me through a blank digital fact finder, I would be a little confused and I would not understand why. And granted, I'm a very inquisitive person. So I would say, well, I don't get it. Why are you asking me to do that? And he'd say, well, I want to build you a map. And I said, well, why are you asking me to fill out a fact finder? You already know all my information. What he would need to do for somebody like me is if he just took the liberty of building my map for me and presented it to me, even if it wasn't 100% complete or perfect, that would go a long way with me. Because I'm like, wow, like you got this new tool, you thought of me, you took the liberty of building me a map. Now you need me to work with you to help you complete it. Okay, great, let's do that. To me, that's efficiency. So from the very beginning, when we designed our Discovery Fact Finder tool, it was originally designed with prospects and new clients in mind, okay? Prospects, leads, etc. And so I would encourage you that unless you have a current client that perhaps you have not spoken to in quite some time and you want to leverage the Discovery Fact Finder as a re-engagement tool to help you gather just their general information so that it's the most up to date, then that would really be the only time I would suggest sending a current client through Discovery. Now, let's be very clear about something. When you send somebody through the Discovery Fact Finder, you're sending them a link. So when we click into Discovery, many of you are going to have 2 options. Everybody on today's call will have outbound, and depending on your level of access, everyone or almost everybody on here will likely have the inbound link as well. Okay. Now let's talk about this. The digital fact finder is preset and is the same questions, whether I send somebody through outbound or inbound. So if you're paying attention and you're not familiar with this, your brain should be saying, well, I don't get it. Then if the fact finder is the same, why are there 2 different options? Well, there's 2 different options because of the initial experience. Now let's be clear. When we send somebody through the Discovery Fact Finder, we're either taking our inbound link and sending it to them and asking them to click on it and go through it, or we're typing in the person's name. Okay. I got a gal who's coming in later at the end of this week. I type in her name, Hannah Miller. I click initiate interview. When you create outbound discovery interview links, you are pre-branding the welcome page of the digital fact finder with this person's name on it. You can create as many outbound links as you want. I got Hannah Miller coming in Friday at 10 a.m. So I created a unique outbound link branded to Hannah, and I'm going to copy that link and send it off to her. Or I can use this email template if I need a little bit of help with some language to get my email going and getting it drafted, and I could send it off. Okay. Or if Hannah hates the internet, or perhaps I forget to send this to her, I could click launch now instead. Okay. And by clicking launch now, I'm going to have the opportunity to take that unique outbound link for Hannah and just open it in a separate tab in my browser. And in theory, if I prefer, I could do an interactive fact finding meeting together in person. I could have told her to come prepare with some statements. I could create that outbound link prior to her coming in. And then I could just click the launch now option, cue it up on the big screen in the office, maybe in the boardroom. If I have a TV in my office, flip my monitor around, have it on a tablet if we're out at coffee, right? And we could walk through this digital experience together. So the outbound link will be pre-branded with the person's name on it. And it is a great extension of you on the bottom left-hand side. You're going to have your profile picture here, and then you're also going to have your name. Embedded behind your name will be your email address. Okay, this is why making sure your contact information is up to date is vital. Then we let the prospect new client lead know we're going to ask you about X, Y, and Z, and this should probably take you less than 15 minutes to complete. Now, if you're somebody who's not leveraging the Discovery Fact Finder interview as of today, I'm going to suggest that you start, and here's why. Okay. I believe that this is one of the easiest ways to get households added into the application. Why? Because it first takes a lot of the workload off yourself. It also shows you if they have a little bit of buy-in, right? Hannah, part of my process is that I'm going to start to build a map of where you and your family are today. So I know you're coming in Friday at 10 a.m. When we hop off the phone, I'm going to send you a link to a digital fact finder. This should take you less than 15 minutes to complete. And please be aware, it's very high level. We do not ask for account numbers, no social security, not even your birth dates. Okay. So you can add as much or as little, but listen, the more you add, the better, because then we can actually spend time on when you come in on the things that truly matter, more time to focus on your goals, your concerns, and ultimately how we're going to help you get there. But just like when we're using a GPS to ask for directions, right? I can't provide you directions on how we're going to get you anywhere unless I first know where you are today. So let me build this map for you. I'm going to send you a link. You can click on it and you can fill it out. Would you do that for me? She's going to say yes. Okay. Now, I could also leverage my inbound link. Now, the inbound link is one link that you can use and send off to anyone at any time. So if you're somebody who's looking to do mass marketing, or you've got a list of 100 prospects that you're going to do an email campaign, or you want to do a social media post or something like that, granted, disclaimer, all of you on today's call, I'm not a part of your compliance department, so you got to go through the proper channels of what you're permitted to do from marketing perspectives. But for some of you, you might think about leveraging your inbound link as being a call to action, right? You could show like a sample asset map report, or say, you know, wouldn't it be nice to see your entire financial picture on one page? Click here to get started. And that call to action would be this link here, your inbound link. Why? Because when you click on your inbound link, you can see that this link is gated. So this link can be clicked on by anyone. If I took this link and sent it to 6 people, all 6 people would click on that unique link specific to me, and they all get the same experience. Number one, I'm front and center, which is a great extension of me. And then all they have to do is come in here, okay, type in their name, mark that they're not a robot, and then click continue, and you can see that they're still going to get a branded welcome page, and then they can still go through the preset series of questions. So just be mindful that you can pick between these two options. You can pick between using an outbound link, or for many of you, you'll also have the inbound link as well. Your inbound link also comes as a QR code, which you might be able to use in your efforts, okay, so that they can scan it and then go through that experience. Now let's talk about something. Can I send an already existing household in Asset Map through the Discovery Fact Finder? The answer is no. So what am I talking about? Well, let's pretend that I have a client and their names are Donna and Simon Smith. Okay. Donna and Simon Smith are folks that, let's say was a prospect that come on board. I decided to manually enter their household for a meeting that we had coming up. So I added as much as I could for them. Could I send them now through the Discovery Fact Finder? Well, you could, but they're going to get a blank digital fact finder. They're going to fill it out from scratch. And when they click all done, it's going to add another Donna and Simon Smith household into the application. So now I'm going to have one Smith household that I manually entered and another Smith household that came through the Discovery Fact Finder. Is there a clean way to marry that information together? There are workarounds to help you do that, but it's several steps. And I'm just going to be honest, you'll do it one time and you're never going to want to do it again because, again, it's just not the most efficient thing. So what am I getting at here? If you want to send somebody through this Discovery Fact Finder, you have to start here first. Start with Discovery first, because once they enter their information, so once they go through the series of questions, once they enter that information, they go to the end, they click all done. It automatically adds a household into AssetMap. And then you could go into that household and you could manually add additional information and continue talking about it with them moving forward. Okay. So you can always manually add additional information to a household that comes through after discovery. You can also tie an integration to an already existing household, but you cannot take an already existing household and send them through discovery. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm just trying to be very clear for the group because I don't want you all to be set up to fail. Okay. So I just want everything to be efficient and make the most sense for you moving forward. So what types of questions do we ask when somebody goes through this digital experience? Well, when they click start now here, the first thing we're going to ask them is, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. Okay. So then they're going to come in here like so, and he'll type in his name and he'll mark his gender and he'll mark his age. Okay. And then he can add in his phone number if he wants to, but guess what? It's optional. Once he clicks save, we're going to say, okay, now tell us about the important people in your life. This could be your family. This could be business partners, close friends, other financial advisors that you're working with. Now I'm going to go through this experience as if I'm this particular prospect. Okay. So I'm not going to enter a ton of information just because of the sake of time, but let's say that George is married. So I'm going to come in here and he's going to add his spouse. Okay. So let's go ahead and say that her name is Julie Vernon. And then he'll come in here and add that she's female. He'll add her age. Okay. And then he could add in her email if he wants to as well. Okay. And then all he'd have to do is just add that in. He could add in her phone number too, if he wanted to. Okay. And then he could go ahead and click save. Now let's just say it's the two of them. So he'll click continue. And then once he clicks well, continue after the well done page here, he can then get an idea of what types of financials he has. So he's going to say, well, I've got income and I've got real estate and we still have a mortgage tied to the home and we've got investments and we have banking accounts and we have insurance. Okay, great. So then he's going to click continue. Based off of the categories he selected, now in this section, we actually want to get started with what those details are at the highest level. So now he can click into each of these areas and add those specific details. So he can go ahead and click into income to start, for example. He can add in his own income first. Notice that the first thing they have to select is who owns this or who's tied to this. In this case, who's tied to this income. And then it'll ask for the drop down. Okay. There'll always be a drop down. So there'll be drop downs for different types of banking, drop downs for different types of incomes. You get it. Okay. It's employment. So he's going to come in here and he's going to say, I'm making $200,000 a year. Let's say that he's pretty high up at Comcast or something like that. Okay. So he's going to add that in, save. Now you might add in his wife's salary as well. So he comes in here and he marks that it's the salary owned by Julie. And let's say that she also makes $200,000 a year and she works for ABC Network. Great. All right. So she's going to add that in. Now, once they click continue, then he could go through and he could add additional things. Like he might have just looked up what their home is worth. So he might say, okay, we've got a home. It's worth $700,000. He could even put where it's located. Let's say that it's in Florida. Okay, whatever the case is. He can add those details. Now, for the sake of time, let's pretend I'm not going to add anything else, right? He doesn't have the different statements and things in front of himself. Now, the idea is that he could just come in here and even if he puts rough numbers, something's better than nothing. But the point I'm getting at is that we are not going to prevent people from moving on. So they can add as much or as little as they want. So if he clicks continue here, then we're going to say, okay, let's get an idea of what's on your mind. This could be goals. This could be concerns. Frankly, could be a mix of both. Okay. We may not know until we fully get to know them. And then in some cases, there may be a free text field where they can write out what they'd like to talk about with you. Okay. Or if you're an enterprise and your company has opted to have that be taken off, then that could be the case as well. If they add anything in here, they could type it like so, and then they can go ahead and click all done. Once they click all done, in just a couple seconds, they're going to get a congratulations page. Sorry, my computer's a little slow today. I've been having a little trouble with my internet. But once they click all done, they're going to get this congratulations page. Digital confetti will fall from the screen. Notice that there's no area for them to go back and change the answers that they submitted. They don't get like a copy of a report or anything, nothing. They just get this congratulations page. So how are you going to be notified? Because guess what? Once they get that congratulations page, we've automatically added the household into AssetMap for you to then work off of it moving forward. Well, we notify you in two distinct ways. One, through the bell icon on the upper right-hand side, which is your alerts. And then also we notify you via email. A couple things that you might want to check are here in your main menu under your user preferences section. Okay, this is a little bit of a hidden gem. In your user preferences section, this is where you're going to want to make sure you got your profile picture added. This will brand your Discovery Fact Finder tool to be an extension of you. Listen, if you don't add your profile picture, it's a silhouette of a cartoon avatar. It doesn't look that great, in my opinion. But then again, you might like it. And if that's the case, that's all that matters. But I do think that it looks like a photo should be there and there's no photo if you use the avatar. Okay. And I just think that anytime we can make things be an extension of ourselves, it tends to breed better results because there's an association there, right? The prospect is like, oh yeah, this is the person I talked to on the phone. Oh, cool. Like they built this for me to go through. Like this is so neat. And then they go through it. Okay. So add your profile picture. Also make sure your contact information on the left, make sure it's up to date, please. All of your contact information flows through to every single deliverable you generate in AssetMap. So make sure this is correct. What's not always super obvious is where you add your designations. So if you have like CFP, CPA, obviously there's tons of other designations out there, add them here in the suffix section and just separate them by commas, okay? So you could come in here and you could put CFP, CPA like this, and then just scroll down and click update. Now I don't have those designations, so I'm not going to add them. Down below a little bit farther, if you keep scrolling to the very bottom, this is where you're going to find those notifications. Most of these notifications speak to that Discovery Fact Finder. So if you want to ensure that you never miss a lead or prospect that comes through and has either started or completed that experience, you just need to pay attention and make sure that you've got these proper boxes selected. Now, the system default should have all of them selected for everyone, but in the event that you want to adjust them or you just want to triple check for your own reassurance, you can just do that and just click update if you need to save. Okay. All right. So scrolling to the top of the page, if you click on the logo at the top of the screen, that will always bring you back to your home page. So just make sure that you do that there. So let's talk about what it looks like once somebody comes through that Discovery Fact Finder. Well, I got an email. It says, LiaJean, somebody by the name of George Vernon just came through your inbound Discovery interview link. So I log into AssetMap. I could shortcut into Discovery here through the bottom button in the middle of the page. And I'm going to look for that person's name in this list. Here it is, George Vernon. Okay. Came through the inbound link. I can see it's 100% complete. Therefore, a household has been built. I can go to this household at any time. I can also download this report that will summarize everything they entered and selected. This is one of the only reports that will also tell you how long it took them to go through that experience. Okay. And if you have access to client comments in your Discovery Fact Finder, the client comments will also be listed on this report. So I'm pointing it out to you all so that you don't miss it moving forward. All you got to do is click on it and it will download onto your computer and then you'll be able to open it up if you'd like. Okay. All right. I'm going to click on this household icon here to take you right into the household. I'm going to click right on their AssetMap report and you can see that I sent these people through that Discovery Fact Finder and it already built a household and it already got their map started based off of what they selected. Now, it's not 100% complete, but guess what? AssetMap reports do not have to be perfect immediately. Whether you're sending a lead or a prospect through Discovery, whether you're manually entering a household that you know a lot of information about, whether you're importing a household from an integration, to be honest, it doesn't matter which method. When you start building maps, you'll start to quickly see that there are areas or gaps that need to be filled. And sometimes you might know that information, and sometimes they maybe haven't told you that yet. And that's okay. The key is we got to fill in those gaps. Okay. So looking at this household, you can see the primary client on the left, the spouse and our partner on the right. There are jointly owned assets down below. Insurance up top is the umbrella. And then on each of their individual sides, we'll break out their cash flow income sources first, followed by their individual assets. Now you'll notice that they both added in their salaries and they added in their primary home. So we do have details there, but it looks like they had bank accounts, investments, liabilities, and insurance, and they didn't add anything for those. But see how even when they went through that digital experience, they marked that they had them. So we're still putting placeholders. These boxes outlined in light gray came from when they selected what's on their mind. Okay. What's on your mind? What are your goals? What are your concerns? They marked retiring and they marked charitable gifting. So we put two placeholders, one for retirement security and one for charitable gifting. Now, when we do this, we add them technically as stencil placeholders. What I've seen some folks do, because they're like, well, I just want to speak to these two categories. I don't necessarily want to have a box. And in some cases, you might want to leave the box so you don't forget to ask them, but I'm giving you some options here. I've also seen some financial advisors that like to just click into the member themselves and then click into the notes tab, and then they log that. So they'll come in here and they'll put financial priorities, and then they'll log a note and they'll put retirement, and then they'll log charitable gifting. Okay, just like this. So they can come in here and you could log that. And by they, I mean you. You can come in here and you could log that and you can click update. Okay, and you can add that just like so. All right. Now, if I added that and then I wanted to get rid of these two things, all I got to do is click into the tiles and I could click the trash can button. That's how you get rid of any of the tiles on the map that you don't want. Now, I did see a question that came in. It said, why are some joint assets split half and half on each side other than some joint assets being at the bottom? What this individual is referencing means that when they clicked into a joint asset, it means that this joint button, this joint ownership button was not checked. So watch, if I uncheck that button and I click update, it'll take the home and divide it in half and put it 50-50 on either side. So the home is worth, right, $750,000, or I think I only put 75 because I forgot a zero when I went through this experience, but it'll split it 50-50. So if you need it to appear down below them as joint, then you just have to click into assets that are owned by both, and you have to mark that it's joint ownership. Okay. And see, I did only put 70. So maybe I speak to them and they tell me it's 700,000 instead. I can just click update and I could just add that down there. Okay. So just know that that's there for you. All right, so let's talk about this, right? What's the natural next step? Well, one of the most natural next steps, regardless of how a household gets added, in this first example, we're showing leveraging that Discovery Fact Finder tool, but even after manual entry and even after importing a household through integrations, if you're looking at a map and it looks like we're missing information, the natural next step would be to add a stencil. Overlay some placeholders and fact find the remaining pieces that way. How do we do that? What you can do is you can click on your main menu on the upper left-hand side. Okay. This is the condensed view. And this is the expanded view. And you can expand and condense this menu on the upper left-hand side. Now, whenever I'm presenting live in front of a client, I always keep the menu condensed for myself just to kind of keep the page large, keep it concise. I don't want people asking questions about what some of these other things are. But even when it's condensed, all these icons are still clickable. And all you got to do is just hover over an icon and it'll give you the word association of what's there. Now, what we're talking about right now is overlaying a stencil. How you do that is you first have to be on a household on their digital asset map report, which is this view here. Then you can click your actions menu, click stencil, click apply. But we also have a hidden gem called the quick actions menu, which, yes, we've got the full actions menu here, colorful plus mark upper left, but you can also right click your mouse and there's a quick actions menu that pops up. I'm going to be honest. I pretty much don't use this full menu on the upper left hardly ever unless I'm doing a training because I'm required to show you both. Okay. I personally use the quick actions menu the most. You just right click your mouse and then I could go ahead and I could click create and I could manually add anything additional about them. I could add in their kids. I could add in their business. And then if I want to apply a stencil, I could click stencil, apply stencil, just like this. Okay. I could click apply. Now, when everybody clicks into stencils, you're going to be greeted with two tabs. My stencils, for the most part, will probably be blank for a lot of you because my stencils mean that you've created custom stencils on your own. Okay. Now, everyone will also have access to the public library. Now, the public library is going to have 20 plus custom built stencils that you all have access to. Okay. And you can comb through this list. You can drag and drop to see the full list. Okay. And it goes all the way down to like 20 plus something. So you can come into this public library and you can see that we've built 20 plus custom built stencils alongside other financial professionals and niche markets that they're typically working with. Could be time of life, could be occupation. And if you like one of them, like if a name intrigues you, like I'm just looking to gather, general fact finding information. So maybe I like this traditional fact finder, for example. If I want to preview it before I apply it, I can use the preview image here. When you click that little photo icon, it actually opens up a sample to show you what placeholders make up this particular stencil. Now, most of our stencils are pretty robust, but let's say I'm like, oh yeah, this does a pretty good job. It kind of covers the basics, like a Roth, a regular, individual banking, maybe an annuity, maybe an individual brokerage. Okay, yes, I like this. It covers the basics. Fine. Then all you got to do is select that stencil. So that say that you want to apply it to the whole household. Yes, and you click apply. Notice in seconds that all those placeholders are going to be overlaid onto the map, and then I can add the pieces that are applicable and remove the pieces that are not. Now, if I was going to present this live to them, what I'd first want to do is I'd want to remove any pieces that I'm not prepared to talk about. Maybe they already told me they don't have those things, right? There's no point in having clutter on the map. So the best way to do that is to use your search and select tool on the upper right. When you enable that, you can select physical instruments and or stencil placeholders, but stencils are always outlined in light gray. Okay, a light gray box indicating it's a placeholder. We put this here to ask, do you have this? So pay attention to what you have selected, because on the upper right is what you tell the platform what to do with it. Now, in today's example, I'm going to showcase removing some. For example, they already told me their employment, so I don't want this employment placeholder. They told me in my initial meeting with them on the phone that they don't have any guaranteed income really other than Social Security, so no pensions. And I know that they just paid off all their personal debt, okay? Maybe there is a mortgage that's still applicable, so I'll just get rid of the personal debt here, and no, separate liabilities. We'll just leave the placeholder for the mortgage to inquire if there's one on the home. Okay, I can go ahead and I can click delete. It'll remove those 8 placeholders, but the rest of the stencil will remain. And then that way I can drive conversation and I can ask the question, do you have any of these things? Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through this entire map, but what I could say is I could say, George, Julie, as you can see up on the screen, I've started building a map of where you and your family are today. Now, you may notice that I've taken the liberty and I've put a number of placeholders on your map. It's not to say that you have to have all of these things, and if you don't, you're not going to be successful, or that if you don't, I'm not going to work with you, or that if you do, I'm going to manage it. Not necessarily. At the end of the day, this is vital for your estate. Me building a complete picture, a map of where you and your family are today, whether you realize it or not, this is an asset for you, for your estate. Over the course of our relationship, we'll also use this map as the foundation for ourselves moving forward to ensure that I do the best planning possible for you. And we'll always make sure that this map is up to date every time we meet. We'll always give you a new copy so that you can save it for your estate records. If you all on this call today are not leveraging this map and referencing it as an asset, I feel that you are missing out on an opportunity. Nobody wants to think about the unexpected things that happen all the time, right? Unexpected loss. Okay. Somebody suddenly passing away is truly one of the worst things ever. My dad was killed by a drunk driver. I FaceTime him in the morning, and then that very night he was killed by a drunk driver because that person just decided to not Uber because they thought they could drive. Okay. A family permanently disrupted now because we loved him and we needed him and he's no longer here. What a mess. Okay. What a mess emotionally, but also what a mess trying to figure out an estate. And I'll tell you something, if my family had just had a map, if my parents had had a financial advisor that at least had a picture of kind of generally where everything is, it really would have put us all at ease. I had to actually create an asset map for my mom amidst all of this because she didn't have a financial advisor at the time. And so we got her connected with a financial advisor, and she took the asset map that I created for her into that meeting. Okay. And thankfully, that financial advisor was a godsend and helped her get everything organized. And so I just want to implore to all of you that I really do think what you're doing is important. I think that providing financial advice to help people achieve financial health is incredibly important. And I think you have an opportunity to help people get plans in place. And whether they realize it or not, this is an asset. And I want you to be the first one to put an asset map in front of every single person that you work with. Because regardless if you know everything about them, like in this case, I'm missing a ton of information, we can start piecing those pieces together, leveraging things like the Discovery Fact Finder to get us started, and then overlaying stencils like so. And George might say, listen, I'll get you those Social Security statements, LiaJean, later today. I can click into these stencil placeholders and simply just click update. Those will save now as permanent pieces, and then I can add their statement later. He tells me he needs to send me a statement, but he thinks he's got $200,000 in his traditional 401k held at Fidelity. Great. I can open up this stencil placeholder and I could call it traditional 401k. I can mark that it's held at Fidelity. And anyone that's attended my training in the past, I got to catch myself here. I personally follow a very strict criteria anytime I build a map, and it really has helped me from an efficiency standpoint. In the reference name, I always put whose is it, and then I put what it is, and then I put where it's located. And when I'm just given a rough number as a reminder for myself, I right click my mouse and I use that hidden gem, which is the emoji option. And I don't get crazy with it. I just use like red circle, yellow dot, but I use the red circle as a reminder that I don't have an up-to-date statement, and I click update just like so. And then that just means that I'm going to wait until I get that statement. I can remove it. Now, remember that as long as the emojis are in these tiles, they will appear on the printout as well. So I feel like a lot of people predominantly only use that kind of behind the scenes, or depending on if you're permitted, if you're able to have dots and things like that on the report printout for presentation purposes. But I'll leave that up to you to discuss with your compliance teams. Okay. So let's say, for example, that I saved everything that's applicable. Obviously, in this case, we'd still be missing quite a bit of information. If I wanted to get rid of these stencil placeholders, though, because I wanted to clear this up, all you got to do is right click your mouse, click stencil, click clear. Okay, and you can remove it out just like that. Now, another thing to think about is that there's a few different ways you can leverage stencils. So I'm showing you here that this is a household that came through that Discovery Fact Finder, right? And we saw that information was missing. I overlaid a stencil that would help us continue to fact find as we're going through that profiling stage. Okay. That being said, what about for existing households where we might just be missing data for one person? Like, for example, I imported this household from an integration. Okay. And all it did is it pulled over the information for the primary client, because that's really the only person I have info on. I also manually added a couple of things for this person. But this guy who's my client actually recently just got married to a gal named Gina. And I really don't know anything about her, but she's going to be coming in. They're coming in together for the next annual review meeting or the next meeting, whatever it might be. And so I could actually apply a stencil and only overlay a piece of it to just Gina's side. How do you do that? Right click your mouse, click stencil, click apply. Either go to your My Stencils if you've custom built any, or go to the public library. Okay. You'll go to a stencil. Personally, I like the building block stencil the best when you're applying stencils in part. Okay. Very, very specific. But let's say that I like that traditional fact finder. I just only want to overlay the placeholders from it to Gina's side. So I could click this traditional fact finder, but instead of applying it to the entire household, I'm going to say no. Then what I'll do is I'll come to this drop down on the left-hand side, and I'm going to select the couple or the partner and or spouse option. Okay. Stencils are designed to go off of role type. So in this stencil, there are stencil placeholders tied to whoever is the partner and or spouse. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select partner, because I want to tie it to the partner and spouse of this household, who is Gina. Okay, so the roles have to align. If I click apply, you're going to notice that those placeholders are going to get overlaid, but look, only onto Gina's side. But look how much better this looks. Now, when they come in, I can put this up on the screen and we could very intentionally go through those things. And if there was, let's say, something very specific that we wanted to overlay just on Mark's side, guess what? You can do it too. Right click your mouse, click stencil, click apply. You again go to My Stencils or the public library, and you could pick a stencil. Now, when you want to be very specific, like I may only want to apply very specific types of placeholders, I use the building blocks for that. When you click the building blocks, you come to apply entire household. You'll say no, and then you can select the topic. So specifically, I might want to put some placeholders for residence and mortgage tied to Mark, because that's actually something that I'm missing from his map. And watch this. I click apply, and all it's going to do is it's going to apply a mortgage, a home, and etc. onto his side of the map. Okay. And now we can engage him, and we can ask if that's jointly owned. Like if she's been added to the house, then when he tells me, oh yes, LiaJean, we do have a home. We just bought it together. It's worth about $1 million. Okay, great. And this is jointly owned, you said? Yes, it is jointly owned. Great. We can mark joint ownership there. We click update, and guess what? Then it gets saved and moved down below them. And then we can add if they have like a home equity line of credit or a mortgage or anything like that moving forward. Okay, so we've talked about the Discovery Fact Finder. We've talked about Stencils as a great way to fact find and fill in gaps. But let me show you how you can leverage Stencils from the very beginning. So what you can do is you can click Add Household here. You'll select Manual Entry. And then what you'll do is you'll select the type of household that this is. Let's say I got a prospective client that's going to be coming in later today. And you know what? I dropped the ball a little bit. I forgot to send these folks to the Discovery Fact Finder, or maybe I didn't drop the ball and I did send them to them and they just never filled it out. Well, guess what? Now I don't have a map to put in front of them, which is a core piece of my process. So what I could do in a pinch is I could add the prospective client in here. Okay. So we're going to call this the Miller household. I'm going to add that primary client that's going to be coming in. His name's Reese and he goes by Reese. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and put Reese and I'm going to mark that he is 42, marking him as male, add member. Now, Reese is also coming in with his wife, Farah. So I'm going to go ahead and add her in here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and mark her as Miller. Age, we'll put as 41, gender, female, role, spouse, add. Now, I don't know if they have kids. These are new people. I'm going to talk to them about that. I'll also find out a little bit more about their business, but I can just click add household here. That's creating a household manually. Now, once the household's been created, you'll see the household name has been added, and then it automatically hops you into the digital map. And then from this view, you can go ahead and click your actions menu, and you can add in their kids, you can add in their business, add in their instruments. Now, let's say these people are coming in 5 minutes. All I got to do, right click my mouse, click stencil, click apply, pick a stencil of my choosing and click apply. And look at that, in what? 30 seconds or less, I manually entered the household, I overlaid a stencil, and we could fact find live in our client meeting for our prospect right off the bat this way. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you a brand new feature enhancement that we've recently made. And to do this, I'm going to showcase it within this particular household. Okay. And actually to do that, I'm going to pivot into an already existing. So listen, the goal is to get you here. The goal is to get you into a household that looks like this, where we added in everything we know about them. We've got the additional members and entities that make up this household. We've added in those necessary tiles. Now, let's talk about this new feature enhancement. It's called Sidebar. Some of you may or may not have seen it. To enable it, you need to be on a household on their digital map. Right-click your mouse, go to toggle visibility, and you're going to make sure that this box that says Sidebar is checked on. If this box is checked, it means you've enabled it. Therefore, you're going to see this little arrow kind of pop out on the bottom right-hand side of the platform. Everybody tracking with me? What we can do is we can click on that, and it actually is going to open up the sidebar. Now, when the sidebar is enabled, okay, and you can open and close it here, what it does is it means that when you click into an instrument, okay, actually, let me click this here, okay, so you got to open the sidebar, and then you got to click this right here where it says members and financials. That opens up the sidebar. Now, when you click into an instrument, it actually opens the instrument, but over on the right-hand side. So for some of you, when you're really trying to work through a map, it might be better for you to use the sidebar, because then you can very quickly come into different things. You can update it, and you're not worrying about here. Like if I close the sidebar, if I click onto something, it opens it smack dab in the middle of the map, and then I might not be able to see insurance, right? And I need to be able to see the insurance behind what this is blocking. So we implemented sidebar, which allows you to open it, click into members and financials, and then what you can do is you click into any of the instruments, and it doesn't completely cut off everything that you're missing. It allows you to click into these different instruments and just simply over on the side, be able to isolate and update that information. So I wanted to point that out to you all today, because I think it's a wonderful enhancement many of you would like to see. Now, What we haven't talked about today are integrations. And again, I'm not going to talk about them super in depth because everybody on today's call, your tech stack might be a little bit different. If you want to see what integrations you have access to, you're going to click your main menu on the upper right-hand side, and you're going to click the integration section there. From there, you'll be able to see the full list of integrations available to you. And if you've got questions on those integrations, how they work, lucky for you, you can click this chat bubble on the upper right-hand side of your platform at any time. And you'll have the option to go ahead and either live chat questions with us. You can email our team. You can call us via our phone support line. You could say, listen, can I schedule time with somebody later this week to set up my nitrogen integration and walk through importing a household for the first time? Yes, we can do that with you. Okay. Just make sure you request it. You can also click search for help, which is our knowledge base. This is available 24/7. So all you got to do is come in here and you type in a keyword of an integration like nitrogen, and then you can click in and there'll be user guides, step-by-step instructions, video walkthroughs to really guide you through those experiences. Okay. Last couple things I'll just mention here is I'm going to go back to my homepage, click into discovery, and I know we're getting close on time. So if you got to jump, you'll always get the recording. But if you can stay with me for another 5 minutes, let's do it because there's so much good information I want to share with you today. If I open up a household like this, where this particular lead came through and I'm missing quite a bit of information, you'll notice that this household signals are all red for the most part. Okay, why? Signals is built off of a predictive model built into the back end, industry standards. Okay, we've got very round math because it has to be round math to work across households. But basically, we've got either 6 critical life events for many of you, or depending if you're an enterprise client, it's possible that you have 5 based off of your company and their preferences. Regardless, when you come into the signal section, you're going to be able to see, okay, whether or not they're on track if these critical life events take place. Now, these run off of a color gradation system. Green indicates it appears that you may have some funding that could be applied towards this and maybe you'd be okay. Green doesn't mean 100% successful. No matter what, you got to go run the actual math. You have to go run the actual numbers. Where do you do that? You use target maps to do that, okay? But we also have yellow indicating like you may have some funding that's definitely not enough, and red indicating not looking good at all. But guess what? You can leverage signals from the very beginning to help you gather missing information. Because guess what? This is all they told me. Okay, that's fine. Well, guess what? I kept my promise. I built their map. So you know what I'm going to do? When I come into the report section, I'm going to build a 4-page deliverable. In it, I'm going to have the cover page. I'm going to have the asset map report default. I'm also going to turn on the signals report, and I'm also going to have the disclosure. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click generate, and I'm going to download that report, and I'm going to send it off to them. Why? Because page number 1 is the cover page. Page 2 is going to show, listen, I started building a map of where you and your family are today. Please take a look. If anything is missing or needs to be added or updated, please let us know. Also know that over the course of our relationship, I'll be leveraging a screening tool to help me determine, are you on track if unexpected life events take place and or pop up. You'll notice that several of your signals are showing as red. Do not worry. This is likely just because we're missing a ton of information still. So the sooner we can get that data and build an accurate picture of where you are today, the sooner we'll have that complete picture to really be accurately to determine, are you on track? And then we'll go run the numbers specific to you and see if you're going to be able to achieve those goals and address those concerns. Okay. So if you're not leveraging signals in that way, especially if you have households where you're missing data, you could also use signals strategically in the report format to kind of get people thinking about, like, yeah, listen, like if you don't tell me the information, I'm really not going to be able to do the best planning for you. And I think that almost anyone would understand that, right? You may have assets. Listen, your brother sold you an annuity 10 years ago and he's still managing it. That's great. Okay. That's fine. What I'm trying to achieve here is I want to build a map of where you and your family are today, because this is vital for your estate. So even if you just want to give me high level numbers, okay, the sooner I have the most accurate information, the better, because then we're really going to be able to plan properly for you, even if all you're wanting me to do is a retirement analysis, or even if you just want me to take a look at if you're okay from an insurance perspective. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and populate a poll on the screen here for us today. I would really love to know, just in terms of continuing training and continuing to innovate these sessions to make them the most valuable for you. I'd love to know, in regards to Asset Map, what other topics and areas would you love more training on? You can say specific tools and or features. Just type it into the poll. I would super appreciate it. You could say, I want to learn more about target maps. I want to learn more about signals or drafts. Or if you're like, I want to learn more about prospecting, or I really love to learn how to market asset map. These are things that I want to know. So if you could take a second and just populate it there in the poll for me, it would mean a lot. I do take that feedback very, very seriously. Now, while we have that poll going, I'll give it another couple seconds. Just know that there's so many different ways to get the household data in. And if you still have questions on that, we can certainly be able to assist you in whatever way that you need. So thank you to those that have taken the time to fill out the poll. I'm going to go ahead and end it now. If you'd like to continue adding anything, you can use the chat feature in Zoom. I can also export that there. So the last couple things I'd like to talk about before we wrap up today is I just want you to know that over the course of your relationship here at AssetMap, there's not going to be a lack of support available to you. We're going to continue to host these webinars every single month. Okay. So we will have next month's webinar probably posted here in the next week or so. If you love AssetMap and you'd like to share that, if you'd like to share a review with us as to what you love about AssetMap and what your favorite part is, I will post this in the chat so you have it. You could leave us an honest review. And lastly, for those of you that are unaware, okay, we host a ton of complimentary training. So included in your subscription, you have the ability to leverage our support team during our support hours, which is Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. till 7 p.m. So you can ask to schedule one-on-one time. You can ask to do a case review. You can go through the knowledge base. You can live chat questions. We also host monthly webinars all the time, but we also have some in-depth training options. And if you're looking for something a little bit more in-depth, you might want to consider joining us for boot camp. So once a quarter, we host an incredibly immersive event, which is our Asset Map Boot Camp. And this is a 3-day training event, half-day sessions each day. It's incredibly immersive, like I said, but ultimately you can sign up for just day 1 or just day 2, just day 1 or days 2 and 3, which is our advanced session just broken out over 2 days. If you want to learn more about it, I just posted that there. Oh, I apologize. I did mention that I was going to close the poll out, but if you'd like to add additional feedback, you can add it there in the chat. So apologies there. All right. So that being said, if you'd like to learn more about bootcamp, I do have a couple seats left. Seats are filling up very quickly, and I have a code there for you if you want to claim it off. The virtual event is recorded, so you get to join from the comfort of your home or your office. You can have your assistant or partner sit in with you if you'd like. And the great thing is that we record the session, so even though you attend live, so that you can ask questions and network and interact along with other financial advisors, myself, the senior training manager, Adam Holt, our CEO and founder, and Sean Dodds, our senior onboarding advisor, right? There's a lot of great material that goes into this. And if you'd love to join us, we'd love to have you there. And again, you can watch the sessions back for up to 30 days post-event. So really, really valuable. Other than that, that's all I have for us today. So the very last thing is I'd just love to know what you thought of today's session. If you found it valuable, it just means a lot if you could take a second and share that feedback. This particular survey is 2 questions and it just comes to me. And I would just love to know what you thought of today's session. I do take training very seriously. We always have a lot of training to get through. So I know for some folks, sometimes it's a little fast. The good thing is once you get the recording, you can slow down the speed if you'd prefer. All right. Other than that, that's all I have for us today. So if you have any final questions, please feel free to add them in the chat and I will get those answered if you hang on the line. Thanks, everybody. And if I don't see you later this week or at a training later on, I hope to see you at the next one. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.